I've eaten a lot of raccoon. Yes. The answer is yes. And I've eaten it hunting. I've actually had it served by my mom at the table away from hunting. And I have eaten raccoon. And it's not uncommon at all. I'll tell you something that is one of my favorites is squirrel. And it's wonderful, and my mother could do a great job of it. And we all had our favorite pieces. And my dad and sister, I have one sibling, a sister, and they would fight over, not fight, but my mom and I, they were just, my sister and I, as far as siblings, my mom and I wouldn't even ask for the brain in a squirrel.
Oh, man.
And delicious, seriously.
Delicious.
My dad loves cow brain.
My sister always got it, or my dad.
The fight over the brain.
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business and let's wake up football gods. Bear with me. I do have a bad cold. It literally felt like last night I swallowed some glass. So my throat is a bit raw. Forgive me. I will probably use a few more clips and things to try and help me get through to save my voice. But today is a big day. It is time to say goodbye to Zach Martin, who is retiring. Sadly, Zach Martin is retiring, but we wish him well in his second career, whatever that may be. That will be 12 o'clock Eastern today, and we'll be here carrying it live because I don't know if that's the only thing that's going to go on. Maybe we'll get a sense of what is happening with the Dallas Cowboys because the Dallas Cowboys are broken. They're unrecognizable as a franchise that we normally know. With the moves that they typically make. Let's go to this clip here to start out with the haterade.
Lost me. You can't be all in. To say we're going to be selectively aggressive means we're going to be choosy about what we decide to do. And if that means not doing much, then we've already put it out there for you. I actually really appreciate this and love this slogan from them because it's more aligned with the truth. It's more aligned with reality.
Cowboys reworking that contract, freeing up about $20 million in cap space for Dallas, which would maybe, guys, indicate one thing. Are they actually going to handle this offseason correctly?
Chris Candy, haterade.
Handle this offseason correctly because we know Jerry Jones loves collecting stars, but we said it yesterday and I'm going to say it again. Collecting stars and building a team are two very different things. And I struggle to see a world where the Dallas Cowboys can pay Dak top of the market, can pay CeeDee Lamb top of the market, can pay Micah Parsons and make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League, along with just giving Osai Odigizua a huge payday. I struggle to see a world where paying all of those guys leaves enough resources to address all the holes that the Dallas Cowboys have. I think people have an illusion of how good this Cowboys team is. You got to remember, they have key pieces on their team, both sides of the ball, that are going to potentially be gone this year. Zach Martin just retired. DeMarcus Lawrence is a free agent. Your leading rusher, Rico Dowdle, is a free agent. DeMarvion Overshown tore 3 ligaments in his knee in December, so you're not going to be able to depend on him next year. Jordan Lewis, who is a respected leader in that locker room in that secondary, is a free agent. And not to mention the other guys that are a year away from free agency that you probably better get contracts worked out with sooner rather than later. So there are a lot of issues that this team is facing from a contractual standpoint, and I struggle to see a world where they have enough resources, enough cap space to take care of all of the players that are currently on the roster and then add in the areas that they need to improve in order to be competitive with the upper echelon teams in the NFC.
I struggle to see a world in which they handle this offseason correctly as well because just because you have $20 million now of cap space doesn't mean that they're going to go on some spending spree. And CeCe said that there are players that they should probably figure out their contract situation sooner rather than later. Why would I have any confidence that the Dallas Cowboys did that or will do that based on the way that they handled the Dak Prescott deal right before the start of the season, the way they drug out the CeeDee Lamb negotiations prior? Why would I ever give them the benefit of the doubt when their actions have shown me that they haven't handled off seasons correctly and that they haven't acted with the requisite urgency that we would expect them to?
So I just want to make sure we're all clear on this. So yesterday they make moves where they restructure with CeeDee Lamb to free up cap space. They get the contract done with the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And none of it leads either of you to believe, okay, they're trending in the right direction. Now, I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Like, so they still haven't won you over in any way, shape, or form based on the moves they made yesterday.
No.
How is their team better than what it was last year?
Well, okay, so let's go there for a second.
Okay. I hope we get something. I haven't seen this.
That it is. I'm suggesting that they made moves yesterday to try to free up space in the case of CeeDee Lamb, which I assume they'll do the same kind of thing with Dak, to ensure that there's more room to bring in more players, right? I mean, that's why you do that, no?
Is that why they're doing that, or are they trying to take care of their own?
Well, I don't know. You have to explain this better than we could, right? Because we see a lot of these contracts that are reworked, restructured. Oh, they free up cap space by doing this. So let's just use CeeDee Lamb as an example. What exactly, in layman's terms, for everybody to understand, including us, what did the Cowboys do with CeeDee Lamb yesterday, and how could that, in theory, if you trusted them, help them this year?
Well, it helps them because they can go shopping in free agency. They can add offensive linemen. They can add defensive linemen.
Wide receiver.
Especially on the interior of that defensive line where they were, dare I say, a little bit soft last year. The Dallas Cowboys gave up the most rushing touchdowns in all of football.
Yeah, well, Cowboys were also the most injured team out there.
Who just re-signed Saquon Barkley to a 2-year extension at $20 million per. They're still going to have to deal with them. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you have to make dramatic improvements from where you were a year ago on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm sorry, re-signing Osa Odighizuwa and paying Micah Parsons is not going to be enough to say we got better.
I'll leave that right there, okay? So, to counter that, let's go to something else here. So last night, I should have went ahead and did something like this. I said when I did my fireside chat that it was hard keeping up with everything that happened last night. I should have went ahead and did a video while I was in bed about this. But last night, while I was in bed, Jane Slater tweeted out, Cowboys making moves early, folks, restructuring, beating tag deadlines, new year, who dis? And she retweeted around the NFL, Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb restructures his contract to help create more cap space. And what she also tweeted about that is more moves to come. Here's the thing. To counter a little bit of what Chris Canty is saying. Now, I can't tell you what the Cowboys are going to do as far as free agency goes. But here's the thing. The Cowboys, let's look at the cap, where we are at the moment. It's true. They got $17 million. They're not going to go on a spending spree. True. Not with $17 million. But the Cowboys going through yesterday and not only getting Osa Odighizuwa signed, who had basically more pressures than anybody from the 3 technique. That's a great piece. It's a piece that fits ideally with what Matt Eberflus wants to do with his defense. It's a key cog. The Cowboys got him signed. Typically, when you think about whether it's been Dalton Schultz, our tight end, or if it's been DeMarcus Lawrence, if it's been Dak, if it's been Tony Pollard, we just franchise tag those guys. We just franchise tag them and say, we're not going to pay this contract, and we pay that number hard. That number was 25.1 for Osa Odighizuwa. We got a long-term deal done for $20 million a year. Some people were saying it was going to be over 21. $22 million a year. Some people said it might be as much as a franchise tag. If you save $2 million a year on a four-year deal, that's $8 million. $8 million, people, is the high point of what the Cowboys had to work with last offseason until they got CeeDee Lamb's contract done. Now, granted, they didn't do anything other than signing Zeke and Eric Kendricks and a few of their lesser players, but this is twice that. But here's the thing. Not all money is accounted for just yet. They made one move, and they now have Osa Digizua in for $6.2 million. When we look at this right now we got Dak Prescott, $40 million can be gotten. And if you listen to Mike Fisher thinks that trigger will be pulled. That's an additional $40 million right there. Micah Parsons, they say they don't have money. They're going to pay Micah Parsons. Well, here's the thing on Micah Parsons. In the same way that Osa Digizua's contract went from 25 on a franchise tag to 6.2, you'll have the same bit of relief for this year with Micah Parsons. They'll add void years onto the situation where they can backload some of that money and things. You may see $10 million cap hit for Micah, which is saving you $12, $14, $16 million off of what's currently already baked in. Money already baked in. You add that along with the 18, along with the 40 for Dak, and the $18.9 million that will also roll over for the Cowboys for money they did not spend last year. The Cowboys, with just those two things, Dak's restructuring and Micah Parsons' deal, have $90 million of cap space. $90 million of cap space. In which case, they can go all in. Now, maybe what I said last year, I said, as the Cowboys were doing nothing, I kept saying, maybe this is like, when you see Star Trek, where they're going after the Wrath of Khan and they're kind of playing dumb and all that. And at the last second, they say, fire. I kept thinking that the Cowboys were trying to keep their powder dry and that they were going to make them, all of a sudden make some moves at the last minute. They were going to get CD done and then jump into free agency, but they never did. But, they always, in history, you hear, don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes. In other words, let them get real, real close. The Cowboys, for all intents and purposes, are literally forgotten. When I go through, something I've always done is I go through in the morning and I look to see what the talking heads have said about the Cowboys, because it's always been Cowboys talk, Cowboys trashing and things, and it's been easy to find a clip. They don't talk about the Cowboys like they used to. A lot of the shows that did, Undisputed is gone. Now Around the Horn is now, rest in peace, Around the Horn. That show's gone. First Take is, it's just not the same. And Speak, shit, man, that thing just needs to crash. They don't talk about the Cowboys like they used to. The Cowboys no longer move the needle for the NFL. They're not as relevant. They're not paying attention as much. And listening to Chris Canty is like, oh, they're stupid. I don't see how signing Osa Digizua back and getting Micah Parsons done moves the needle. Well, actually, it's not just those, because you got your kick returner / wide receiver weapon, Kayvon Turpin, back. You got your special team stand-up guy back, C.J. Godwin. You are talking to Micah to create some more cap space. And like I was saying, and if y'all today, Jane Slater, and if y'all like today, Cowboy fans, I'm told not done. Expect more maneuvering and cap space creation to come shortly, per source informed. So, yeah, Jane Slater going through there. And here's where we're looking back at the cap numbers, okay? We were down here at just barely breathing yesterday at $3.4 million. you get one of your players that we typically lose in free agency signed, and you generate an additional $14 million of cap space. You're doing actually pretty good. And if we do go through and hit Dak's trigger, when we get the rollover money, when you start thinking about the Cowboys having $90 million, I don't know what the Commanders' rollover is, but we'll have more money than Washington, because I kept hearing how Washington is going to have so much money. Now look at it this way. The Commanders traded for Deebo Samuels. Deebo Samuels is a $17 million cap hit for him, and that's for 1 year. You don't know if he can play. You don't. I mean, he'll play, but how good he'll be. The Cowboys have made moves, and Osa Ndigizua was only 6.2. Now, this cake is not baked yet. We got a long ways to go. But if the Cowboys do pull those triggers, they're going to pass a lot of these teams in free agency, money-wise. And the Cowboys, maybe they were playing dead last year. And that now they're firing on everything they've got. Now, I don't know why the Cowboys have changed like they did. Maybe it was the fact that Zach Martin decided to retire. That Zach Martin was, when you looked at Zach Martin and you say another great player of ours that's no longer going to be with us. I don't know if it's Jerry Jones is getting older and maybe thinking about retiring. I don't know if it's the fact that the talking heads aren't talking about the Cowboys like they used to. All I know is something's different about the Cowboys, and they are seemingly going all in right now. Maybe it was delayed. Jerry Jones was saying all in, but he just didn't say when. But right now, they have the ability to bring back the key players from last year and have money to do something if they want to do something big. Now, something big, like Chris Canty was just saying, forgive me, would be like getting a wide receiver, getting an offensive lineman, getting a D tackle. Well, if they end up signing those players back, they flip the trigger, and they go ahead and get Jordan Lewis back. They end up bringing back Rico, again, depending on the deals. I bet you the Cowboys have $60+ million that they could still use. Now, some of that might not be a bad idea to get extensions for Tyler Smith and Deron Bland, but they could also go out and get yourself a couple of big-name free agents. And maybe you make a crazy move and you go for Davante Adams. We've got Cooper Kupp, who's been listed, kind of linked with the Cowboys because of his former coach. But let's check this out before I get hacking.
With Aaron Rodgers, obviously both those receivers were brought in because of him. Adams just lasting 11 games with the Jets. And you would think, Tim, that there could be a good half a dozen teams out there at least that could use somebody like Davante Adams. Who do you think makes sense?
Well, I think there are a few teams that make sense. I think the San Francisco 49ers make sense. They just traded away a really good, wide receiver. I think that returning to the Green Bay Packers could potentially make sense. I think there are plays, like you said it, Hannah, there are going to be a lot of teams interested in veteran wide receivers. Now, it's a pretty good group of veteran wide receivers that, will be on the market. Chris Godwin, maybe Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, guys like that. And so I think it'll be crowded, but I think there will be a landing spot for Davante Adams. And I say it in part two because, look, I think at this point he knows he's not a number one wide receiver. At the same time, there's still a lot of production value there. And then I think it's always important for a team to have guys in your wide receiver room that are pros, that know how to approach, that know how to prepare. And that's important. And so I think that the market will be strong for Davante Adams and other veteran wide receivers.
And he's seen all the highs and lows, hasn't he, in the NFL, right? From the highs in Green Bay to tough times in Vegas to the situation with the Jets, experienced in a lot of ways, including those 6 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Tim, thank you. Back with Tim.
Okay. There you have it there. So is that a possibility? And could the Cowboys, money talks. Let's be real here. Money talks. Could the Cowboys become a destination where people decide, hey, maybe I might want to go there? Maybe I might want to go there. They've got cash. They're building a team and so on. Now, one person that people were talking about possibly for the Cowboys getting is 32-year-old offensive guard from Kansas City. Let me read exactly what we have. Per sources, the Bears are expected to trade for Chiefs All-Pro guard John Tooney as Chicago continues to load up on offensive linemen. They're sending a 4th-round pick for him for their All-Pro guard. They're trying to fix their offensive line, so he is not one that we will be able to get. And I'm kind of more, I know he's an All-Pro, but I would rather go a little lower. But a 4th-round pick, that's not as bad as you would think. But we have still some players that teams are interested in trying to trade, like we see with Davante Adams was cut. Nobody was going to pick on his contract. Alan Lazard, another Aaron Rodgers buddy, is able to seek a trade as well. So there we have it, good people. We are in a position to make some moves. I'm expecting the day to be kind of crazy. And when Zach Martin's press conference starts, we will definitely be here for it and hope you guys join us. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And keep the faith. This is not the same Dallas Cowboys right now. We are doing things differently than we ever do them. And I love it. I love it because last offseason sucked. It sucked. We kept looking at the offseason and saying, I said, we can win 11 games if we can thread the needle. I said, we're going to need everything to go perfect for us. I said, we were going to need Mozzie Smith to become great. I said, Overshown was going to end up being like Bobby Wagner. I said, Diggs comes back healthy. I said, Rico would have to be better than Tony Pollard. That our rookie offensive linemen were going to need to be great out the box. And then we're going to have to stay healthy. That Sam Williams was going to be better than Dorrance Armstrong. And literally almost everything that we looked at and hoped for blew up in our face. Sam Williams tears his ACL in the offseason. In training camp. Diggs never came back healthy. Deron Bland didn't get healthy till week 12. Brandon Cooks missing time in training camp and missing most of the season. Dak Prescott getting injured. Literally Overshown, devastating knee injury. It was just hit after hit after hit and Zach Martin injured most of the season. Tyler Guyton not looking like a first-round pick. Cooper Beebe was good. Cooper Beebe was definitely good. But beyond that, it was hell for us for that season. And we just couldn't get anything right. So if we only have a little bit better luck in health, and now getting guys like Osa, if Osa does like CeeDee Lamb did, CeeDee Lamb seemed like he was a different player, that he was a man on fire, even though there was no fire to back him up. He came out there playing like gangbusters on a season with nothing to win. And if they get Micah Parsons done, and Micah Parsons knows that, hey, I got, my buddies here, they're trying to build, and he goes out there to help trying to recruit some players and say, hey, Davante Adams, bro, listen, you can get your social media on. okay? You can get some cash, and we're trying to build something that maybe this whole narrative of the Cowboys, nah, man, I don't want to go to Cowboys, that all of a sudden some people will want to come to Dallas. They've got some money. They've got some fifth-round picks, and you're seeing where some guys are being traded dirt cheap. They may be able to use some of these fifth-round picks to make some moves for some quality players. And the Cowboys, well, this is out of necessity. The Eagles, they're not sitting pat on winning the Super Bowl. Washington, they're going to try everything they can to get over the hump. We got to be there to compete. So, as always,
Cooper, you still got the big load, I see, man. Damn, they ain't giving you any kind of break today.